actually, ice is pretty good shield if you've got enough of it. And Europa would have a pretty thick ice shell over any liquid ocean that's down there. So if you're looking for life in Europa's ocean, it would not have a problem with the radiation environment from Jupiter. They would have other problems.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We are going to be talking about the solar system with Emily Lakdawala a little bit later.
And the exploration of?
And the exploration of Not by Graham. But first, as always, Graham, I always pictured you with more hair, Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
I was hoping for the short one. Like, I pictured you a little taller.
Oh, yeah, it's like, wait, what does that mean? I pictured you with more hair.
I was like, what? That's the worst thing to say to me right now.
Thanks, man.
And you know what, though? I hear that my girlfriend said it's actually growing in the back. It's growing in more in the back.
It doesn't grow in.
It is. It is.
Are you
it's
taking
getting better.
something?
Kinda.
Well,
not really for it, though. Just better diet.
I've got some hair pills at Kyle's. I forgot them there.
And a bunch of longevity supplements and stuff like that. It's pretty. I should show you. I should take a pic of my little.
And then fucking Paul just comes out and calls you on it, eh? I pictured you with more hair. What a dick thing to say. You're not even that bald.
No.
That's the thing, is you got quite a bit of hair, really.
I think maybe because he's pictured me like a hippie or something like that.
Maybe
Maybe
long
like
hair.
long
Pictured
hair,
like a stoned hippie. Just like
Probably,
everyone who listens to the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he listens to the show.
I'm not a Canadian stoner. Just a Canadian.
Balder. Just a balding Canadian.
Yeah. So we got Emily Lakdawala coming up, and it's a great episode on the space exploration, and specifically in our solar system. There's tons of shit going on there. It's been an amazing couple of years, and she has a wealth of information. She gets right into all the nitty gritties about what's going on. There's like 7 of our as in human spaceships on Mars right now, or rovers or whatever you call them. And then there's lots of shit going on. So it's a great chat with Emily. She's a fast talker and she's full of information. So keep up.
Try and keep up.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good. This kind of inspired you, didn't it, a little bit to get into more, like get your telescope going and like get into our solar system a bit more, or what?
My telescope was involved in my latest dump run.
Oh, did you? Really?
It was just too fucked up. I got it for free off Kijiji a few years ago, and it's just been patched so many times, and like just it won't stay. It's real hard to focus and find things. When you get there, it's hard to focus it, and it's hard to keep it there. And so I just took it to the dump, and I'm just going to
get a new one sometime.
Yeah, next month I'll invest in take some of my paycheck, invest in a decent one.
Did you learn a lot? I don't know.
I'm tempted to save up and grab. You know, like you can go. I could afford now to go out and buy one for a few $100, but I'm tempted to maybe like save up and grab one because you get those ones for like $1,000 or $1,200, and you can like link your smartphone to them and they'll as a hotspot and just say like, show me Saturn. Like, you know, you're not fucking changing lenses or putting in these. I forget the name of that other lens that makes it 3 times the Barlow lens or whatever. Like trying to do all that and keep it focused, and the moon's fucking moving and we're moving. It's like by the time you get it focused, you go back to the moon and now you're readjusting because the moon is now moved.
So they have automated ones now that
have automated ones.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Why don't you just skip it and get a nice set of night vision goggles so we can also like UFO hunt at the same time?
Because night vision goggles aren't going to help me see Jupiter.
No, but still.
What do you mean?
Well, it'd be more interactive.
No, it won't.
And I'll bet you it will.
We're going to bet now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take that bet.
Okay. Right on. Well, I'm looking forward to trying that out when you get it going.
Yeah. I'm going to the, I need to go to down in the observatory for the Milky Way nights or whatever.
What is this?
That goes all summer. From like, you can go down there, it's like every second weekend or something like that. Every second Saturday, you can go down there from 10 till 2. And it's like $10 a head. You can go there and just stroll around and go through the telescopes, go outside.
Skywatch,
yeah.
Cool. Did you ask those guys over? Oh, you didn't go. You didn't go last time, did you?
No, fucking
your
Jim's
truck broke
shitty
down or
truck
whatever.
broke down. And then the next thing I planned, so that was the one thing I planned to do. And then I planned to go out to the Nitro Circus. That was the next thing I planned to do because I don't do a whole lot.
Right.
So I had plans to go to that Nitro Circus and I got canceled both days.
Nice.
Because of the rain. Yeah.
It was on for 2 days, was it?
Well, it got
thought it was
postponed the one day
Oh.
to the next day.
And then canceled.
Wow.
Okay, so I was going to go. I was thinking about going to that as well, but.
They didn't officially cancel it till like 9:30 at night. It was supposed to start at 6. So they let everyone sit out there in the rain and drink beer and kept telling them it might go on. Oh, they postponed it an hour.
What?
And postponed
You
it
had to
another.
go to it and then it got canceled?
Yeah. Well, me and fucking Kyle got wise right away. We were in line to get
Got what right away? Wise?
Why?
Oh.
Yeah, we were in line to get a burger because we showed up a couple minutes late. And we had four.
Of course,
we had
always
4
late.
tickets and 2 guys had already canceled. So it was just me and him. We were waiting in line to get a beer and a burger, and it started raining. And all these people like were running in. The people that had like, I don't know, it'd be the equivalent of being on the like floor seats for a concert. That they were actually outside, not undercover. So they all came charging in, and then they came over the loudspeaker and said it was going to be postponed for an hour or whatever. And then Kyle like looked at it. We looked at the weather
You're like, give
forecast,
us 2 beers.
and it's like, you know what? No, the line was moving real slow, and it was frustrating. And then we looked at the forecast, and it was like rain, 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 rain. So we were like, fuck it. This fucking thing is not going to happen. So we just left to go get out for dinner. We're like, we'll just go to a nice restaurant for dinner. So then on the way out, I had the 2 other tickets. There was a scalper trying to sell tickets. And I was like, hey, do you want to buy some tickets? And he's like, what do you want for them? I was like, $80. He's like, I'll give you 50. I was like, okay, sold. So we go, that paid for my dinner at Lounge Burger. And then it got postponed and then canceled. So then I got the tickets from Ian, but now because it was canceled, they just refund the money to his credit card. So
They
the
made
scalpers
$50.
just owe $50.
That'll learn them.
Yeah. That'll teach him to scalp tickets. But yeah, the communication was pretty terrible. Like we left right away because we didn't really give a fuck, right? But there was people that had driven from all over fucking Alberta, southern
F-bomb
Alberta.
warning. Can I give you an F-bomb
No, you
warning?
can't.
No?
You can't.
If you just start saying too many in a row.
So now I'm losing my fucking train of thought. So people came from all over southern Alberta, this fucker, and they just sold beer in the rain and kept saying it might go on for 2.5 hours or 3 hours. And they canceled it. A lot of people were pretty upset.
Really?
I was following it on Twitter just because we had already decided by 10 after 6, we were like, we're out. And then, but I was just following the conversation on Twitter just to make sure, just to see if I had made a good decision.
Did you go to the casino or something?
No, we just went for dinner and I went home. I had other shit to do.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get into the drinks, so I only had 1 beer and went home.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what happened there. That was my weekend, my long weekend. What, you gonna say something?
No.
I'm a rambling gram with synchronicities all over the web. And Aaron is skeptical about everyone and don't believe it yet.
Bum, bum. Do you have a synchro?
I have a stinkro.
Oh, I like it. I don't have a jingle.
No, it's
for
not.
this.
It's not a stinkro. It's just a note from a listener. TB4476 sends in a note. Hi, Graham. I was reading the last Canadian Tire flyer while taking a dump and saw this listing for squatty potties. Is that a synchronicity, or has Grimerica become that influential? He's talking about, because we talked about squatty potties a little while ago there. Darren was raving about his, and actually we were going to get the Squatty Potty Company on, but I don't think they want to come on the show.
No, we're too lowbrow for
We're
them.
too
Maybe.
lowbrow. Yet we get, thank God Emily Lakdawalla comes on from the Planetary Organization and Planetary Society, and we can't even get the Squatty Potty people on.
No, I can't say I blame them.
I still need to buy mine, but I'm glad they're at Canadian Tire now. I mean, we can.
Are they? Does he say how much they are?
They're like 20, save 20% right now, $23.99.
$23.99?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cheaper
deal.
than I got mine on Amazon.
Yep.
I think I paid $30.
I'll have to do that one of these days.
You could be squatting and potting.
We should get a Grimerica sticker for it.
That's not bad.
You'd be shitting all over Grimerica.
Shitting on Grimerica. Better get in line. So I can't rate that.
No, it's not rated. It's not for rating.
No.
So we got a long shot synchro here from Garrett Dunlap. He's a old
Related to you?
Yeah, he's from the clan way back when.
The clan? Like the fucking KKK?
No, clan. Clan Dunlap, like the Scottish clan,
when you say
right?
the clan, that's what people are immediately
No, it
going to go.
means Scottish clan. People don't think of that right away.
I think that they do.
No. It's like, this is going back to...
Let's see what happens if I tweet out that, hey, Graham's uncle's in the clan.
Well, it has to be... I
In
said
context?
his name. Yeah,
Okay.
the context is important.
You
for
said
this.
Dunlap.
Yes, I know, but I've been researching our coat of arms for Dunlop,
Insignia.
right? Yeah, Dunlap, it derives from the same thing, right?
Yes.
Dunlap and Dunlop come from the same clan. Yeah, kind of like that. And my mom made me a little window box with my tartan pattern and the logo, and then a little some gold.
Nougats?
Yeah, some gold symbols that are like my name's meanings and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool.
That's pronounced Dunlap?
Mine's Dunlop, right? But we come from the same source apparently.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
somewhere along the line we split
The
off.
clan.
The clan. So he says, "Hey Graham, I think I had a bit of a synchro, but I'll let you decide. I've been listening to the show for a couple months now, started with the first 30 casts, then skipped to the end, and now I'm caught up. Anyway, my girlfriend is out of town on a business trip, so as usual, I rent a couple of obscure movies from Redbox."
Is that porn?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a little video box in Safeway or whatever.
Oh,
think.
okay, yeah.
In keeping with my recent trips down many rabbit holes, I rented 2 fly-under-the-radar movies titled Synchronicity and Regression. After finishing Synchronicity first, and about 10 minutes into Regression, my girlfriend tags me in a post on Instagram. It says the houses of the North American Wizarding School in the Harry Potter universe had been leaked. Naturally, being a fan, I looked them up right away. All 4 names of the houses were taken from American folklore, mostly Native American, but all of which have been talked about on various shows I've listened to recently as visitors to ancient races. In the middle of reading the article, the app fails and cuts off my reading. So I look up to the TV screen, and in the movie Regression, in this very scene, is an actor who portrayed a beloved character in the Harry Potter movies. All that after just finishing the Synchronicity film. My girlfriend happens to know nothing about the podcast I listened to, had not read the same article I had, and I even had to explain to her what a synchronicity was. I don't know if this is anything, but it was enough for me to write an email. Hope you at least find it a little entertaining. Thanks for your time.
6.5.
That's a pretty good rating. Thanks, Darren.
Could be worse.
Yeah.
Could be better,
Yeah.
but it could be worse.
Gets extra points for being the clan.
That's right.
Darren and Graham are going deep. It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
Oh, I got a good one here. Appropriate to this episode, kind of. Okay.
It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
This is the quote. As a member of the House Committee on Science and Astronautics, I, of course, have had contact with high Air Force officers and have had an opportunity to hear their comments on and off the record on the subject of unidentified flying objects. Despite being confronted with seemingly unimpeachable evidence that such phenomena exist, these officers give little credence to the many reports on the matter. When pressed on specific details, the experts refuse to answer on grounds that they are involved in the nation's security and cannot be discussed publicly. I will continue to seek a definite answer to this most important question. That was from Congressman Joseph E. Carth, August 24th, 1960.
It's deemed appropriate.
Yeah, I say.
I like it. Congressman. Thank you, Mr. Congressman. You still a congressman? Dead.
Yeah, wouldn't be.
Deceased. We could be. No term limits.
I think there is, isn't there? 2?
No. No.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So I've got one that's not so appropriate here, but it's a trip report. But it's pretty cool.
Ooh, jingle crazy this week, eh?
Yeah.
I don't have a trip report jingle.
I just asked you if you had any. Where's that?
Grimerica Trip Report.
Psychedelics are catalysts of consciousness.
That one?
Yeah, that's the one. So not that we're advocating the use of any drugs whatsoever, but if people want to, then we will listen.
Speak for
People have
yourself.
sovereignty over their own consciousness, we believe. But yeah, anyways, it's, we're
We
not...
keep you. You're not we.
So this is from an anonymous listener. So if I say the name at the end of this email,
Fuck
Darren,
that. I'm not fucking
no,
going
just
through and listening to
no.
edit
If I
again.
say the name, just blurt it out, like just
Okay.
beep it as we're doing it here.
But
Exactly. So hey guys, I thought I'd share a memorable DMT experience.
could I use that?
It's a bit long, sure. So don't feel obligated to read it if you don't want to, but I am because it's pretty cool. Also, don't mention my name, for obvious reasons. I have some more strange tales that I might relate at some point. So I enjoy experimenting with the deems in settings and ways to see how it affects my perception at that given time and place. This experience, I decided to try breaking through while playing the video game Destiny on a PS4. I was playing the PvP online, what the game calls the Crucible, and while it was matchmaking me with other people to play a match, I started taking the tokes. I sucked down the third hit just as the map was loading and the match was starting. To be clear, for anyone who knows about the game, it was a team deathmatch or clash on the map Exodus Blue. This is important because when you play these kinds of games so much, you get a very good memory of the map's area, like where things are and where what they're supposed to look like. Also, anyone who's seen the game's graphics can recognize it's a very distinctive graphic and art style. As the match started and the deem started to ramp up in my brain, things go wild. At first, I noticed my character's gun inverted colors and became super glossy, like it was covered in slime. Wow, neat, I thought. I played for another 30 seconds or so. Next, every part of the game morphed into a very retro Doom-style shooter. Every aspect of the graphics, all the textures and skins became super sharply angular, grainy, and primitive, like looking at a game from the early Nintendo 64 era, yeah. Sorry. I was blown away that DMT could so drastically change this in every way. No part was left out. The television screen sort of became my entire vision, and oddly, everything sped up extremely fast, maybe 30 times its usual speed. It was a bizarre thing. Everyone is moving hyper fast, and while working like Destiny should, definitely looked completely different. I briefly became engrossed in this. How awesome. I'm having a great time. My gameplay sucked, but I didn't care. Spawn, run, die. Spawn, run, die. Spawn, run, die. Over and over. Until at one point I spawned, standing there, and something seemed to point out to me, hey, aren't you having a great time? See those other players? They're controlled by other people too. Everyone playing a game, doing what they're supposed to, running and trying to accomplish their tasks. This is reality. This is you. This is them. This is your world, your reality, like a video game. Something higher is your player. You are a created avatar of this, playing a game called life. You are running around accomplishing your goals, heedless of anything higher. You're just doing what you're supposed to. It hit me like a shell shock. I sat in my chair, open mouth, gaping at the television. This crazy reskinned game running at hyper speed. My character just standing in his spawn place. Other players on my team spawned around me and ran off to do their business and get killed over and over. Enemy players ran up to me, and I saw them look at me for a split second before killing me, almost saying, "Why aren't you playing the game?" I dropped the controller and just stared. Then the match ended, and we received our rewards and started again. Some of us were allies, some enemies, but at the end, it didn't matter anymore. And the next match could have enemies as allies now. How fitting. And all of this is what is generally about 10 minutes. I turned off the game, went out on my deck, and stared at the night sky for a while. Thanks for hearing me out.
Nice one.
Fits in with your little computer simulation theory, Darren.
Does it?
Yeah, you're just an avatar and somebody's just controlling you up there.
Is that
We're in a video game right now, just doing our stuff.
could be a pretty boring video game sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the time, but sometimes it's probably exciting. But when I'm at work, it's probably much fun.
That's true.
But I don't think he means in the video game sense. I think he meant more as like consciousness itself as the controller.
No.
No?
No.
Not non-local consciousness?
No.
I wonder the difference is the guy in the game isn't self-aware. Or is he?
No, that's the thing. He was becoming self-aware, right? But nobody else was. Everybody's just going through their life playing the game. Interesting.
I'm surprised he was able to keep it up for the entire match.
Yeah.
Because some people we talked to said they weren't even here.
Able to function, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Send us more.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it. Don't game on DMT. Did you say his name?
No. Oh, I don't think I did.
Attaboy.
No.
Say it now.
No.
Oh, we got our comic in too. Have we talked about that already?
Oh, right. Yes, we have to talk about it. Go ahead.
It's awesome. I'm going to grab it.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Keep talking.
So, yeah, we have this no agenda meetup. Darren and I were both going to go, or so far Darren's still going. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, people listen to the No Agenda show. There's a bunch of us getting together in Red Deer. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. It's at the 111 this Saturday, the 28th, from 3 to 6, I believe. And, yeah, we're going to meet some other people that listen to No Agenda and have some great conversation. Have some lunch or something, probably.
Dinner. That'd be dinner.
Dinner, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice quality comic.
This is from Napoleon Doom, one of our artists, who's actually I think he's going to be helping us manage the episode art every week.
Taking over creative control of the art.
Yeah, but he's done a comic book here. And actually, if you purchase the comic book, it's...
supports the show.
It supports the show, yeah.
And it's all the web comics he's been posting over at the site. And yeah, it's really high quality. There's all sorts of little Grimerica Easter eggs in there. I'm a welder. Graham's Ray from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks, Napoleon.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think we are going to be expanding our episode art out in the next, as we go into year 3.
Year 3 coming up, yeah, at the end of this month. So if people want to contribute to episode art, they can get a hold of Napoleon. I'll put a link in the show notes as well to him.
Or would that be?
And we're not sure how it'll actually happen.
We're starting year 4 now.
Yeah, we're starting year 4. Yeah, crazy.
So for year 4, we're going to open up the episode because we have quite a bit of people sending art now. So we're going to basically try and keep some sort of list someplace, probably on backstage.
Backpage, not backpage.
Not backpage. Well, we might get it there. We'll see.
Backpage / Grimerica.
We don't want to be there. But we'll post a list on there and we'll just kind of open it up that anyone can, we're going to give Napoleon an email address. It'll probably be nap@grimerica.com.
Yeah.
And anyone can send in art. He will be the, I don't know how he's going to do it, but either way, he's just going to send me whichever art is the winner for that week.
Yeah.
And I will slap it on. So yeah, it's going to be, I guess we kind of could call it the No Agenda style. I wonder, so if we're going to do that, we should probably also, maybe we'll change the name of the backstage and we could start posting all the art up there.
Well, I do have to update
Like
the backstage. I have to
somewhere
update it.
we should post all the art like No Agenda does. So you can go there and see all the art.
Yeah, but that might be on a separate platform
It's
or
a
something
separate
like that.
URL.
Because I want to use the backstage as well to show people who's coming up and all that, so we can get listener questions in.
So should we just maybe we should just get Grimerica.com or something.
Maybe. I don't know how we'll do that. But anyways, we'll figure all that out, but we just want to give everybody a heads up. And speaking of that, this is a listener-supported show, like fully. There's no ads, no portals, no sponsorship.
Yeah, for 2 more shows, you'll have this show and next show, you'll have to hear us talk about this upgrade thing.
Yeah.
These are the last 2. I see a lot of people have been stepping up and grabbing some tickets since our last show.
And it's for a new recording computer in the studio.
Yeah, so we are going to do the draw. We've decided we're going to do the draw live. I think actually instead of YouTube, we might just use Periscope. I've had Gainsford pissing around with Periscope, and he's been letting me know about how that works. So that's basically right through Twitter.
Oh, is that how it works? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll probably just do a thing. We'll do a little video of the little process just so everyone sees it. We'll have that live streamed so people who want to tune in. I don't know exactly when it'll be yet, but we'll make sure we let you know.
It'll be somewhere in the first half of June, I would assume.
It'll be the first week of June. I assume it's going to be June. I don't know where the calendar is.
So yeah. Anyways, we'll pick the winner, and then we got to figure out exactly how we're going to do it. We might pick 3 or something right off the bat.
Probably
just in case.
June 7th because that's the Tuesday, right? We'll probably be in studio June 7th.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do it that day. James said he'd come over and do the filming. So we'll do a quick little film of us cutting them all up, putting them in the thing, drawing the name. Bingo, bango.
Okay, good.
So you got this week to listen, next week to listen to us talk about upgrade, and then we're done.
How many tickets are left?
Not a lot.
Not a lot? Like 20 or something?
20 or so.
Okay,
yeah.
so that's good. We're almost going to cover our costs then for the...
Yeah, we're pretty well. That's good. Pretty well good to go. Of course, there's a couple extra little expenses like the iPad and stuff like that, but either way, we'll be getting our new computer. So this week, next week, last chance. Let's see if we can sell these last 20 tickets. And big shout out to the people who have stepped up and bought. There's people on here. There's people now that have bought 9 tickets, 6 tickets, 12 tickets.
Wow, really? Eh? Yeah. And thanks to the people who have also just given us monthly subscription amounts that really help for our fixed bills every month.
Yeah, huge shout out to our monthly subscribers. Those are the people that kind of keep the wheels turning. So that's there's a bunch of different options there over at Grimerica.ca/support. So huge shout out to you guys who pay all the monthly bills.
I think that's about it.
Period. That's all you got?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So, okay, guys, enjoy the chat with Emily. And we'll see you in the outro. And we're also going to pop out one more bonus episode. It's going to come out probably on the 31st, and then we'll get back to regular schedule for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So, a couple extra episodes for you in May. You guys can thank all the people who bought tickets for Upgrade for those.
Thanks. right, so with us tonight in the Grimerica show is Emily Lakdawala. I'm super excited about this. She's a senior editor and Planetary Evangelist.
Two last names in a row you nailed. Are you like reaching out for phonetics? Are you getting these things phonetically?
Come on, give me a break. So she's works for the Planetary Society, and she also contributes to their weekly podcast. And I love this term, she's a planetary evangelist. So she kind of knows exactly what's going on in our solar system right now with all this exploration. And it really is like the golden age of exploration. Hey, Emily, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been listening to your podcast, and it seems to me like this is a super exciting time. The last couple of years of exploration in our solar system.
We really are at the peak. There are so many robots out there exploring all these different planets and moons and asteroids and comets and dwarf planets. It's a really good time. There's a lot of science data coming back. Spacecraft are living a really long time, and it's just really excellent. It's going to get a little less excellent in a couple of years as these spacecraft start reaching the ends of their lives, and we're not launching them as fast. But for right now, we can really enjoy it.
And some of them are lasting longer than they expected, right?
A lot of them are lasting longer than they expected. In fact, that's the real big difference right now, I think, compared to a couple of decades ago. So you've got spacecraft like Mars Odyssey at Mars, which has been in orbit since 2002 and is still doing great science there. Got Cassini and the Mars Exploration Rovers since 2004. So there's a lot of spacecraft that have been lasting a long time. And really the biggest ones are the Voyagers, which are still actually doing science like 100 times Earth's distance from the sun. And, they launched in 1977.
Wow. And so there's upwards of 20-something spacecraft out there, right? No?
That's right. That's my count. That's the number of spacecraft that are away from Earth. So it includes a couple lunar orbiters and then all these spacecraft. A lot of them are at Mars, but there's various other places they're at too.
Wow. So what's new for you? It seems like every week something is new, but what's the latest thing going on right now in your industry?
Well, there's a lot of new stuff going on. Let's see. We've got Curiosity has just drilled 11th hole into Mars, digging up some soil that they're going to put into their little analytical laboratory instruments on the rover on Mars. Got Opportunity rover climbing a crater rim. We have Cassini
I thought
recently.
Opportunity was stuck.
Opportunity. That's Opportunity.
Oh, we
that's
lost you there
Opportunity's
for a
sister.
second.
Oh.
Am I still here?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
now.
can you just repeat that?
Yep, I will. That's Opportunity's sister Spirit that got stuck on Mars. There were two twin Mars exploration rovers. Opportunity is still going strong. Spirit died several years ago, very sadly, but Opportunity is still going in the 14th year of operations on Mars.
Yeah, it was because of some dust or something, wasn't it? Got stuck and then the dust got on. I remember watching a video and they like got it out and everyone's cheering and then it got stuck again.
Yeah.
No, the deal with Spirit is that Spirit had a bad leg. Spirit had a bad right front wheel that got locked up. And so the rover was already having a hard time driving around. And then they got embedded in this really soft sand. And they tried to get the rover out, but they just weren't able to do it before winter came. And they were at a bad tilt for their solar panels and too much dust. And it was just too many things all conspired to kill Spirit. But Opportunity doesn't have a bad wheel like that and is up on a crater rim where wind is constantly keeping the solar panels free of dust. And so they're still generating quite a lot of power and are really good to go for quite a while.
I love how you guys talk about them like they're your kids or your
I bet you it is. I bet you it's like a pet, man. Yeah. I bet you like when that thing died, there was people just bawling their eyes out.
It's more than that. When people talk about the spacecraft, particularly the rovers, which are kind of anthropomorphic, they don't just say it. Sometimes they call it she, but most of the time they say we, as if that robot is the embodiment of all humans representing us on Mars. So we drove 16 meters today. We deployed the arm and checked out the surface with the alpha particle X-ray spectrometer. We did all these things, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I like that because it does reflect the contribution that all these different countries and cultures are making as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it really is an international enterprise. I mean, a lot of these missions are NASA missions, but even the NASA missions have lots of contributions from foreign countries, built science instruments, lots and lots of non-US scientists participate. And then there are more and more missions out there that are from Europe and Japan. Even India has an orbiter at Mars right now. China has a lander on the moon. Japan has an orbiter at Venus. So it's really a very international enterprise.
And the last remote control car I got lasted an hour and a half.
Yeah, they build spacecraft a little differently.
So, oh man, there's so many questions. So there's a lot going on to the outer planets as well. You've got stuff going on in Pluto and the moons.
What about Europa?
And Europa, like you guys have something coming up to Europa in a couple of years, which is fascinating.
Yeah, outer planets is something that I'm very passionate about because I think it was the Voyager missions that got me really excited about space exploration, seeing all those moons of Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus and Neptune for the first time in the 80s. And there is currently one active outer planets mission, and that's Cassini, which is orbiting Saturn. Mm-hmm. And then there's New Horizons, which flew past Pluto and is on its way to a second, much smaller Kuiper Belt object. And they're sort of lumped in with outer planets, but it's like a whole third zone of the solar system out there. You go beyond Neptune and you have this huge belt of really fascinating worlds, and New Horizons is the first mission to explore those. And then there's nothing else going on in outer planets right now. So that when Cassini dies, and Cassini is going to be dying in less than 500 days now,
wow.
we won't have any other active outer planets missions. There are two currently under development. There's a European mission and an American mission to Jupiter that are being developed. And I'm sorry, actually, I did forget about one more outer planets mission, and I can't believe I forgot about it because it's going into orbit in July. That one's called Juno. It's an upcoming Jupiter orbiter, but that mission's not going to last very long. It will last about a year and a half. It will end in 2018, and after that, we won't have any active outer planets missions.
And then
that's going to be a real sad day.
Into Jupiter.
Well, no, that one doesn't crash into Jupiter. The problem with Juno is that it's the first spacecraft that will have a polar orbit, where instead of orbiting far away from Jupiter in the same plane as the rings and moons and everything, it's got an orbit that goes up and down over and below Jupiter's poles. And because of the particular way that those kinds of orbits change over time, its orbit is going to take it into Jupiter's magnetic field, which is really bad news for spacecraft. Jupiter has a powerful magnetic field. It just roasts electronics. It has all these charged particles flying around, and it will kill the spacecraft in about a year and a half. But we'll get really cool science between now and then. Cassini is going to crash into Saturn.
Is Europa a June?
That's a moon of Saturn, isn't it?
A moon
Europa?
of Saturn?
Europa is a moon of Jupiter.
So can we have electronics on Europa?
We can. The deal with the Europa mission is that it's Europa's a little farther out from Jupiter than Juno. Juno has to go much closer to Jupiter because of the particular kind of science it's doing. The Europa mission will be a little farther away and will be able to handle the radiation for quite a bit longer than Juno.
Huh.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if I went to Europa, does the atmosphere help too?
Well, if you went to Europa,
How long
I
would my
think it would
iPhone last?
I think it would be pretty bad news in terms of the radiation environment. Jupiter is really bad news. Yeah.
It is, eh? So even Europa, so life on Europa would be irradiated, or it'd have to deal with higher radiation, or does the ice in the oceans underneath, would that offer some protection?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, ice is a pretty good shield if you've got enough of it, and Europa would have a pretty thick ice shell over any liquid ocean that's down there. So if you're looking for life in Europa's ocean, it would not have a problem with the radiation environment from Jupiter. It would have other problems.
You think, that it would have its own set of problems? I guess we have our own set of problems too.
Exactly. We have our own set of problems.
Life finds a way.
So I get there's going to be some stupid questions tonight, Emily, for sure. So you're talking to some people that aren't too involved in this, but can you not rejig one of these things to go somewhere else? Like, can you change missions at all with these things? Once you're on that mission,
the answer to that.
Well,
You know,
some of them have been extended and changed. Like,
Yeah, but you only have so much fuel. It takes a lot of fuel to go from Mars over to, we'll just go to Venus and stop by Mercury and then come home.
Yeah, so the question is, it's a question of fuel, and it's a question of how much fuel it takes to leave wherever you are and then arrive wherever you're going. So traditionally, there have been two main kinds of space missions. You either had flyby missions,
Right.
where you shoot past it, so you do some science on approach, you squeeze as much science as you can into the few hours around closest approach, and then you do some on the way out. And then your course may take you in a direction where a small adjustment to your course could take you to a different place. So that's how, with like a lot of the asteroid and comet missions, those flew past an asteroid and they were just in solar orbit and they had already flown past an asteroid, and there are a fair number of asteroids in that region. And so they were able to retarget a second asteroid or a second comet.
yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there are other missions like, say, Galileo that was going to Jupiter. But if you're going to Jupiter, you have to pass by the asteroid belt. And so they managed to plan its course so that they passed by 2 asteroids on the way. So they did a flyby of 2 asteroids, and then they went into orbit at Jupiter. Once you go into orbit, it's really hard to leave, especially if you're orbiting something that's really big.
Right,
so
right.
once you're orbiting Jupiter or Saturn, you're kind of done. You're stuck at Jupiter or Saturn unless you have a lot of extra fuel to expend. On the other hand,
we
if
couldn't
you're,
even break orbit. Like, could
well, it
you
depends
even
how much
have?
fuel you have.
Yeah, like even could even say the standard space shuttle rockets, would they be able to break the orbit of Jupiter?
Well, it's not about how strong they are. It's about how much fuel you have. And so it's a question of how much fuel you've carried with you. And so I know that there were ideas that, like, the Cassini Saturn orbiter could, in theory, have had an extended mission where they left Saturn. And so they brought a ton of fuel to Saturn because they needed to change their orbit a lot over time in order to study all of Saturn's rings and the planet and the moons and everything else. So if they had wanted to end the Saturn orbiting part of the mission early and go someplace else, they could have done that. But that would have been kind of a waste of having gone all the way to Saturn and have all this fuel to explore all these moons of Saturn. And so they decided to stay where they were. But if you're orbiting like an asteroid, which has a very small mass, it's much easier to leave. And if you have like the Dawn mission orbited Vesta, and then they left Vesta, and now they're orbiting Ceres.
What's it like controlling something to make it go from, say, Saturn to Saturn's moon? Like, how long is it real time, or I guess light speed is the factor? So, like, how the fuck does that work?
Well, when you're controlling something at the moon, you can joystick it, but anything farther away than that, there has to be pretty autonomous. So you have to develop series of commands that you send to a spacecraft, and then the spacecraft autonomously does its thing, and you can track it and be in communication with it. But the spacecraft has to have a fair amount of autonomous capability to steer itself, to navigate itself from point to point.
Oh, so the pilot's really more like a guy in a programmer.
Yep, it's a whole
code.
team of programmers. Yeah, so they come up with a plan. You know, navigators figure out what the spacecraft needs to do, and they say, here's what the spacecraft needs to do, and that goes to a programmer, a team of programmers that develops a sequence and checks the sequence and checks the sequence again and checks it a 4th time. And then they send that to the Deep Space Network, which is the giant radio dishes that we use to communicate with our deep spacecraft, and they radio the command up to the spacecraft, and then the spacecraft checks it out. If it's a really big maneuver, often the spacecraft will load the sequence, then send it back to Earth and be like, for real, this is what you want me to do? And they'll say yes. And then the robot goes ahead and does it.
And then that takes what, like a half an hour, 15 minutes, or what is it like? I think isn't it 16 minutes from here to Jupiter for light?
It depends on the time of year. So Earth and Jupiter both have big circular orbits, and they move closer together and farther apart over time.
Right.
So it depends on the
that'd be
time.
16 minutes just in Earth's orbit.
It's 8 minutes between Earth and the Sun, light time.
Yeah, so if we were on the far side of the sun, we could have 16 minutes, just our orbit can fluctuate it by 16 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Maybe it was more like 45 minutes.
From Jupiter,
I'm trying to think of what was it, Galileo? Somehow he used light. It was light. That's how he figured out that, whatever.
Anyways,
I can't remember.
Yeah. So
Jupiter's about 5 times Earth's distance from the Sun, roughly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you have 40 minutes.
Yeah, good memory there, Darren. So you guys are getting pretty close, even though a lot of these missions are orbiting, like flyby type stuff. You guys are able to get pretty close images now, right? I heard something, you guys are within a few meters, zooming within a few meters distance, right?
Well, again, it depends on the target. You can get real close to something that doesn't have very much mass that you know really exactly where it is.
Okay.
So like
Ceres.
Ceres, they don't get all that close to, because Ceres is actually a pretty big asteroid. So the closest they're ever going to get to Ceres is an altitude of, I want to say it's like 380 kilometers.
Okay.
But you take the Rosetta mission, which is a European mission that's orbiting a comet right now, and they've gotten as close as 10 kilometers or less. And they're actually going to bring their spacecraft into a landing on the comet later this year. That'll end the mission. But the mission has to come to an end, so they're going to try to do it in as dramatic a fashion as they can and get the spacecraft closer and closer and closer to the comet, which is going to be cool.
Wow, yeah, that's great. And is that the same mission that wasn't there one that landed on a comet already somewhere?
Yeah, that's the mission that sent a little lander to touch down on the comet in November of 2014.
That's autonomous, or is that a joystick?
That's all autonomous. Yep.
Come on.
Wow, yeah.
But even the rovers driving across Mars are autonomous. I mean, you develop a sequence, you send the robot, they only get instructions once a day in the morning. And you send up the sequence and the rover does everything it's been instructed to do and then relays the data back to Earth in the afternoon.
And it's on Mars 100%? Some people think it's in Arizona.
Well, here's the thing. We've got photographs of the things sitting on the surface of Mars taken by Mars orbiters. But if you already don't believe that the rover's on Mars, then you're not going to believe we have orbiters up there either. So I don't see how that argument's any good.
You know what I wonder is how come we never ever I've never seen a good picture of the lander site. I like going over the Google.
Oh, the moon
you can go over Google Mars and Google Moon, and you can check out all this. Seems like you can zoom in pretty close and see the orbit. You can see the rover. You can see the rover, but I can't see the landing the thing from the moon. Or maybe there is a picture and I just haven't seen it. But I remember I was looking last week.
There are some really great pictures, actually. We have a spacecraft up there called Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. Yeah, right. And it's taken amazing photos of all the Apollo landing sites. You can see these dark track marks left by the astronauts and the lunar rovers as they explored across everything. You can see the lander, and that orbiter, it takes pictures at many different times of the lunar day, so you can see the shadows lengthening over time and stuff like that. Nice. They're really cool pictures.
Is that all public?
Yep.
Public domain? Ooh, that'd be fun to go through too.
Yeah, search on LROC, LROC is the name of the camera. Okay, and cool. All the Apollo landing sites, all the Surveyor landing sites, and even some of the missing Russian landing sites. They've got the Lunokhod rover and the rover's tracks and everything. It's super cool.
No Russians went to the moon though, right? Just a rover?
No astronauts, no cosmonauts went to the moon.
That we know
but they had autonomous sample return missions. So they had landers that sent back samples. And then they had these rovers that were joysticked from Earth. And for a long time, they held the distance record for how far a rover had traveled on the surface of another world until Opportunity beat them.
Wow.
How come we don't go back to the moon? Why? Is we just sick of it, or is it a cash flow thing? It just seems like we should be going there once a year.
It's definitely a cash flow thing. There's plenty of science left to be done on the moon. And there's lots of people interested in walking on the moon. So it's just a question of how much people are willing to pay.
So isn't there some good stuff going on with the moon from, who was it, Japan or China? Wasn't somebody taking some in-depth views of the moon or some deeper shots with some different type of instruments? Yeah,
there have been several interesting recent missions to the moon. There's this Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and GRAIL from NASA. GRAIL is a gravity mission that studies basically the interior of the moon from gravity data, and that was super cool.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat because gravity lets you kind of see what's going on beneath the surface. But it's sort of difficult science to explain. I took a crack at it in a blog post, but it's a little on the esoteric side.
Right.
The Japanese had a spacecraft called Kaguya that took a really nice topographic map of the moon that's been used now by all the other space agencies. China landed. So China has had now 4 lunar missions, 2 orbiters, actually 3 orbiters, and then this lander. And their first ever lander mission on another world, they put the lander down, no problem, deploy a rover instantly. And they're off there, taking photos of their lander from the rover and photos of the rover from the lander. And I was pretty impressed. I did not expect that thing to work on the first try. And it did. There's some really gorgeous color images of the Chinese lander and rover on the lunar surface.
It'll work on the first try. I just think it'll work for long.
That will teach you to buy stuff from China. No, Darren's just had his own experiences with electronics from China.
Well, unfortunately, the rover did have a motor controller problem, but the lander has been working now for 2 years on the surface, which is kind of amazing because the lunar surface environment is not nice to electronics. The temperature swings are vicious. And so it's really hard to design something that'll last over lunar days and lunar nights. And this thing has kept going.
Wow.
Is there anything planned right now? Like, is there anything in the next decade or so that is there any people planning to go to the moon anytime soon?
As far as I know, there are no current plans to put people on the moon. The most exciting thing planned in the next couple of years is the next Chinese lander mission is going to be an autonomous sample return mission, which only the Russians have ever done before. And nobody has done for 40 years. So that'll be pretty cool.
What about Mars One? That's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, probably not going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. So, but I've also heard, people are paying a couple $100,000 to fly in orbit on, what's his name stuff, right? Elon.
Yeah. In orbit on a dragon type thing?
Yeah,
I hadn't heard about that.
No, maybe it's not in orbit then or something. But aren't they
so
going
there's.
I think it's gravity. The thing is, they take you high enough that you don't have gravity.
It's what they're like. There's Spaceship Two, the Virgin Galactic one. So that's a suborbital trip. So you go up to a super high altitude. It's above most of the atmosphere. You see black space. You see stars. You are weightless at the top of the curve as you go up into the way upper atmosphere, and then you come back down again.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's suborbital. So you have like 5 minutes, above the most of the atmosphere. You are still in the atmosphere, but you're above most of it.
So how far away are we from those private organizations going orbital then?
I don't know. I don't know how far we are. It isn't. I don't really follow the industry that closely, so it's hard for me to say how close they are. I mean, the next big step is for SpaceX to be able to launch people up to the space station, which would be a very welcome development since right now only Soyuz capsules are capable of sending people up there.
Wow. So it's a bit of a bottleneck with the space station. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we quit fighting with the Russians.
So out of all these things in the last couple of years, there's like Pluto, pictures of Pluto and new stuff about the moons around Saturn and Jupiter and Planet 9 and Ceres, all these things. Like what has got you the most excited? Or what's your kind of the most surprising thing that you've been finding out over the last little while?
I absolutely hate picking favorites, but I will say that the Pluto pictures did really surprise me. I did not expect Pluto to be so diverse. I mean, I expected it to look interesting, but I didn't expect it to look so interesting in so many different ways all over its surface. That was a real surprise.
Wasn't there even some evidence of tectonic activity?
Yeah, I mean, there's these big, peaky, tall mountains. There's what looks like river valleys, although it's probably not liquid. It's probably like glaciers, but still, glaciers on Pluto. Who predicted that? Yeah. I mean, that's weird. So, and then you guys have also gone close to Ceres recently, right? I know you don't really like to talk about the lights on Ceres because so many people want to ask you that, but but you have figured out that it's, I think, salt domes or something in craters or something like that. Yeah, Ceres has been really interesting. So Ceres is a round world. It's the only dwarf planet in the asteroid belt. We knew already from its density that it has a lot of water ice inside it. It's located in the outer part of the asteroid belt where water ice was stable during the formation of the solar system, although it's close enough to the sun that water ice on its surface wouldn't be stable, just like on Mars, except at the poles. So it did have these bright splashes on it. And so my instinct is always, well, we know it has ice and we see these really bright spots. So probably that's just recently exposed water ice, like an asteroid slammed into it and dug it up and made this bright splash. But that's not what Don has found. Don has found that it's not water ice. There's only one spot on the whole world where there is pretty good evidence for exposed water at the surface. And that's this tiny little bright crater near the North Pole. And then the rest of it is, like you said, it's salt. And so it looks like what we're seeing is Ceres would once have had an internal ocean, just like Europa has. Mm-hmm. And as that froze, the briny salt water is sort of what's left. And you get this concentration of salt at some places near the surface. And salt can, as low density, it sort of domes upward and moves around through rock. And so maybe you have these deposits of salt near the surface, and that's what an asteroid punched into and made that bright splash. But you can probably hear that I'm kind of asking questions now because it's all still not real sure, not real clear what we're seeing, but it's not water.
Right.
So there's still...
So, wow, that's fascinating. So there's lots of stuff going on. What about some of the newer technologies like the light sail or the Dream Chaser that are coming on board pretty soon?
Yeah, so the Planetary Society is involved with this light sail project. One of our founders, Lou Friedman, has always been fascinated by solar sailing. In fact, he wrote the book on it. And he originally, when he was at JPL, he was pushing a solar sail mission to Halley's Comet back in 1986 when Halley was flying past. And so solar sailing is cool because you don't need to launch propellant for it. You rely on the pressure from solar photons to accelerate your spacecraft. Which is great because it's renewable. It's not great because it's not a very strong force. So you need a really big sail in order to accelerate a spacecraft of any considerable size. Mm-hmm. And so our latest project, this light sail thing that we're working on, is a very small spacecraft. It's a CubeSat. And so that gives it a very low mass, which means that you don't need a gargantuan sail in order to measure the acceleration.
Mm-hmm. And they've tested some of it, haven't they?
That's right. So we've launched one light sail. We've tested the deployment of the sail, but that test was at an altitude that was too close to Earth to be able to test the actual sailing technology. Because you go up like 300 kilometers away from Earth, and you are in space. You're orbiting Earth, but there's still enough atmosphere around to exert drag on spacecraft, and that drag force is stronger than the sunlight acceleration force would have been.
Yeah, right. But you still needed to test the deployment first, and all. Right. Obviously, you have to go through some proper logistics first before you get out there.
That's right. So our next, we have Light Sail 2 is getting ready for launch. It'll launch on the second flight of the Falcon Heavy rocket. It's planned for sometime next year.
Wow. And there's lots of different rocket technologies too now, isn't there? I mean, there's new ones coming online. You got the Falcon Heavy. What are some of the other ones that you guys are using?
Well, because we're a CubeSat, we don't really care what kind of rocket it is. We could launch on a teeny one or a big one or whatever, but we're not paying for the main payload. So when you're a CubeSat, you wait around to get a ride on somebody else's launch that where they have a little mass left over, and they offset some of their cost by selling some of their launch capacity to these much smaller spacecraft, these CubeSats. And so we'll launch with a couple of other CubeSats as a secondary payload on somebody else's rocket. And so it just so happened that the somebody else's rocket that we got a ride on turned out to be the Falcon Heavy, which is pretty cool.
Nice. So what about asteroid mining then? I've heard people talking about that. That's going to be like a reality in a few years. Like people are getting close to hitting those asteroids pretty. I mean, they've already 3D printed asteroid. No, haven't they already printed non-Earth material?
They have. So let's see. They've started doing 3D printing in space on the space station. There are a couple of companies that are fairly serious about developing asteroid mining in the future. To me, the problem with asteroid mining is that it is so expensive and difficult to do that the economics only really make sense if the stuff that you're mining is intended to be used in space,
right,
rather than returning it to Earth. Right. So at some point in the future, there is going to be an in-space economy, and asteroid mining will be like the basis of that economy. You'll be using asteroids, getting raw materials, building your ships, your infrastructure, your everything else in space to do things in space. But it's really hard to make an economic case for launching a whole bunch of stuff to space to mine some stuff and then have to bring it back to Earth.
Yeah,
so
you'd almost be turning an asteroid into a ship in a way, right? Adding propulsion to it, or doing some sort of printing technology and turning that into your home base, kind of. Huh.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm excited to see the developments here, and I'm really excited to see future technology being developed where you can go to an asteroid and use what you get there to make stuff there at the asteroid. But the kind of idea of, going up and getting iridium ore or whatever, platinum group metals or whatever, to me, it's real hard to make an economic case for that, especially because once you start returning it to Earth, that if you are able to return a whole bunch of it, well, it's going to become more common and the price will drop.
Yeah.
So how do the economics work there?
Yeah. So you guys have been getting pretty good funding over the last few years. I have a sort of a personal question. If you had unlimited funds, what would you throw the money at?
Truly unlimited?
Yeah.
I'd buy space missions. So the spacecraft that I most want to see right now is a mission to Uranus or Neptune, where it's sort of Cassini-like. You study both the planet and its moons and its rings. I like Uranus a lot because it's got a really interesting set of moons to study, as well as being a planet that's the most common size of planet we're finding all over the rest of wherever we're doing these exoplanet searches. Neptune is similar in size to Pluto. Neptune is similar in size to Uranus, but it's quite a bit farther away, so it takes a lot longer to get there. But it has this really cool moon called Triton that is probably a captured Kuiper Belt object. So you'd get to explore both an ice giant planet and a Kuiper Belt object that's bigger than Pluto with the same mission. So maybe we build 2 spacecraft, identical ones, and we send one to Uranus and one to Neptune. That's what I'd do first.
Yeah, nice. Huh. So what about Planet 9? These guys that have found the calculations. Is there any news on that recently? That are they just sort of waiting for their theories to be confirmed?
Yeah, there's no news on that. There are people who are searching. So these are Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin. They did a bunch of mathematical modeling based upon the positions of orbits of things that have been discovered to predict where this possible 9th planet may be, but they haven't discovered it. So, it's not time to talk about sending missions to it yet because we don't know if it actually exists. So I'd rather see missions, if you're going to go out that far. There's a lot of interesting worlds besides Pluto in the Kuiper Belt. There's Eris, which is practically the brightest world in the Kuiper Belt. It's like 100% reflective. And it's got a couple of moons. There's Haumea, which is this world that spins so fast, it's stretched out into kind of a cigar shape. And it has a couple of moons.
Well,
There's Sedna.
Hang on a sec. You're losing me here. What are these then? So these are outside the Kuiper Belt. So they're within our solar system, no, but they're not planets, but they have moons still?
Yeah, these are all in the Kuiper Belt. So they're a lot like Pluto. So Pluto is just one of several biggish worlds that are out there in the Kuiper Belt. They're like the size of the moons of Saturn and Uranus.
Right.
They're all bigger than any of the asteroids. So I think a lot of people make this people who think about the Kuiper Belt at all probably think of it as being like another asteroid belt, but it's not. The things that are in the Kuiper Belt are big. There many more of them, and they're generally larger than the things that are in the asteroid belt. They're a lot more like the moons of the giant planets. And they're also really diverse. When you have Pluto, which it has these bright and dark spots, you've got bright Eris, you've got dark Maki and 2007 OR10, which doesn't have a name yet, but is also really big. And so there's all these different worlds that would be cool to explore, but they're very far away.
So they're like Pluto, but they were never demoted from being a planet.
Well, yeah, it's their discovery that led to Pluto being demoted, because there are all these worlds that share a similar orbits, and they're a lot more in family with moons. And people seem to think that implies like a value, like they're less interesting because they're like the moons. But if you look at the moons of the solar system, you see how diverse and fascinating. I mean, Europa and Ganymede have oceans, and Ganymede has a magnetic field, and Titan has an atmosphere and methane lakes, and Enceladus has these plumes venting out from its south pole. The moons are awesome. So the Kuiper Belt objects shouldn't feel bad about being compared to the moons because they're awesome and just as cool.
So how many more are those? Are we still finding them, or have we sort of done the map? Have we finished the map of our solar system yet?
We have probably found most of the big Kuiper Belt objects that are within, or the big objects that are within the Kuiper Belt.
Right.
The Kuiper Belt goes out to about 50 times Earth's distance from the sun, and then there's a sharp drop-off for reasons we still don't understand.
Okay.
That the Kuiper Belt stops. And so we've found maybe all but one or two might still be hiding of the really big ones.
Okay.
But there are many more small ones to be found. And like I said, there's even the small ones are a lot bigger than most of the asteroids. And then beyond that, there's a whole new section of the solar system that we're only beginning to find things in. And so there's way more solar system out there that we still haven't discovered things in yet.
So where is that then? That's out past Pluto then? Or
it's out past Pluto. It's out past the Kuiper Belt.
okay, and then is it to the Oort cloud or something like that, or is the
It's not all the way to the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud is super far away.
okay?
And the Oort cloud, we only know that it's there or theorize that it's there because of comets. They have orbits that kind of end out at this super distance from the sun, but we've never directly observed the Oort cloud. But in between the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, we started finding there's this one world called Sedna that was out there in a weird orbit that wasn't anywhere close to Neptune, and nobody could figure out what this one thing called Sedna was doing out there. And just recently, in the last few years, people have started discovering a couple more things that are in orbits like Sedna, and it's actually those discoveries that led to the theory of Planet 9.
Wow, that's fascinating. So these things are all in some sort of orbit around the sun still. They're a part of our solar system, but they're just sort of not really planets, but there's, lots of discoveries out there. So what's that mission that's way out there past Pluto now? What do you call it? Cassini? Is that the one?
No, so that's New
Cassini's
Horizons.
Saturn, right? Yeah, New Horizons, right. So is that still going out, or is it going to die soon?
So it's still going out, and it's going to be encountering a much smaller Kuiper Belt object, something about like 30 or 40 kilometers in diameter,
Okay.
In New Year's Day 2019.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that'll be a whole new sort of new information, new discovery. Like, what is this? Is that the small? How does that size compare to the asteroid that? Geez, I can't remember all these names.
There's a lot of names. So
the one that
the
Europeans got to that.
So Rosetta is actually, that's a really good question because the head of the New Horizons mission actually drew this comparison exactly. So if you compare Pluto to comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko, which is the comet that Rosetta is studying, Pluto is, I want to say, 1,000 times the diameter. I'm not sure if I have my math right now, but anyway, it's a factor. I have to go look this up. But if you factor it out, the thing that New Horizons is going to visit is like right in between the size of the comet that Rosetta is visiting and the size of the of Pluto. And so you get to kind of fill in the middle of these icy worlds from the distant reaches of the solar system.
Right. Yeah. See, that's kind of the visual. I kind of needed some sort of visual comparison there. So that's going to be fascinating. It'll be interesting to see what that's all about. And then what happens after that? Does it continue on further?
Yeah, so New Horizons is on an escape trajectory, just like the Voyagers. It's going to keep traveling forever, for billions of years. It has a radioisotope power source that will only last for some certain number of years, maybe out to like 2024 or something like that, until it runs out of, it doesn't have enough power to power its transmitters to talk to Earth anymore. Because that's still one of the energy costliest things that we do in space is powering up the radio transmitters. And so once your power supply gets too weak to be able to talk to Earth, then even though the spacecraft can technically still be alive, you can't hear from it anymore. So the mission is essentially over.
Right.
And so that's where the pioneers are. Voyagers are good for another maybe 5 more years. The New Horizons will last a little bit longer than that, but they're all traveling far away from the sun, and they're going to orbit the center of the galaxy for until the end of the universe or until they happen to run into something. But space is pretty empty, so that the odds of that are actually very low.
Yeah. So what about I just thought of it now. The space elevator I keep hearing about, is that something that could be a reality at some point?
At some point, yes. It requires materials that we don't currently have. But I read, there's a science fiction book by Kim Stanley Robinson called Red Mars that does a really good job of explaining how space elevators work. And so it's a conceivable bit of technology, but it requires materials with properties that we don't currently have right now.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how those science fiction books can sometimes be fairly accurate. I read some Ben Bova and some Orson Scott Card, and like it's just like they do the asteroid mining thing a lot, and it sounds so cool. Like it sounds they make it very realistic.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good hard science fiction that they talk with a lot of scientists and they try to get their facts straight, and they do a real good job. Yeah.
So before we let you go here, I mean, it's been a fascinating conversation and learning tons about that. I really just wanted to get sort of a full-on update of what's going on, because I'm sure people hear bits and pieces of it, but you're so knowledgeable about everything that's going on. It's just great to chat with you. But can you tell us a bit about Planetary Society and what you do there and that organization?
Sure. So the Planetary Society was founded in 1980 by Carl Sagan, Lou Friedman, and Bruce Murray.
Yep.
At a time when the public interest in space exploration was really high and government interest in spending money on space exploration was really low. And so we're an advocacy organization. We have a big membership, more than 40,000 members, who we advocate for more space research and exploration. We educate the public about what's going on in space exploration. And we try to stimulate new technology development like the light sail, and like we have projects now on deep drill for planetary research for landing on Mars and drilling into the surface or drilling into ice. We have technology projects to work on deflecting potentially hazardous asteroids, things like that. So we have a sort of a broad array of projects, and we just, in general, we're an international organization. We try to encourage worldwide collaboration, participation in space exploration.
Nice. And you're the senior editor of that, and you also participate on the weekly podcast, which I've been listening to. So if people want to hear more about that, they can always check out that podcast as well, Planetary Radio.
That's right. So check us out at planetary.org. You can go to planetary.org/radio for that podcast, or to planetary.org/blog to read my blog entries. And I also get lots of guest bloggers, scientists and engineers involved in space exploration, to write about what they do.
You know what? I do want to, I found something else I want to ask you about that I have in my notes here that you just mentioned. But in the next few years, is the near Earth object technology and classification and funding and everything, is that going to be increasing quite a bit? It seems like that's going to be the focus for a bit here as well.
Well, NASA seems to be interested in trying to send humans to a near-Earth asteroid, which I personally think is really cool. There are a lot of people who seem to who want to go straight to Mars or go back to the moon, and I have no problem with doing any of that. I think it's great. But I also think it would be cool to see astronauts floating up close to asteroids, trying to figure out how to work with material from an asteroid surface. But it's sort of hard to know what the future direction of NASA's human exploration is going to be at this point. We may have major shifts with the next administration. We've done a really good job of discovering a lot of potentially hazardous near-Earth asteroids. So what I'd really like to see is development in the technology that we need in order to mitigate the threat if we happen to discover one that is on a collision course for us.
Yeah.
And so if we keep vigilant, if we especially if we manage to get a telescope that orbits the sun a little closer to the sun than Earth does, we could really fill out the gaps in our knowledge of the asteroids that could potentially be hazards to us. And then we can start working on ways to, if we know about them far enough in advance, it doesn't take very much force to deflect an asteroid away from a hazardous path. So that's really the way to go.
So that is the sort of the most forward-thinking solution right now, is to actually deflect it somehow?
Yeah. So what you really want to do is, let's say you discover something that might possibly impact Earth in, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And we should be able to figure out something that, that it might have like a 1 in 500 chance or something. So that's kind of scary. So the first thing that you do is you send a little spacecraft to the asteroid that has a radio transponder on it. And that allows you to track it super precisely. And in all likelihood, once you've tracked it much more precisely, you will be able to predict its path with enough certainty to discover that it's not going to impact Earth. So that's the cheapest thing to do, is to send a little spacecraft and learn that you can do nothing and be safe. But if you send your transponder and you find out, well, yeah, it actually still is a risk, and now that we know its path, we think that there's a 1 in 20 chance of it hitting us, that's super scary. That's when you want to start talking about the kinds of technologies you can use to deflect it, like these gravity tug ideas, or the Planetary Society has a funky one called laser bees, that you just do a search on laser bees, like the bugs.
Yeah.
And you can find out more about that. So there's various ways to apply a really tiny force to a spacecraft, to an asteroid, that can nudge it a little bit out of its path.
So because that's one of the biggest threats, really, is something at some point that could end everything. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Emily. Really, really appreciate your time, and we'll let you know when this thing comes out as well. And take care over there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Big thanks to Emily for coming on the show, putting up with
the antics
bullshit.
in Grimerica.
Yeah.
Grimerica antics.
She's a good sport.
Yeah, she was
Grammatics.
Great. She was great.
Arguing grammatics.
Full of knowledge, eh? I just couldn't even keep up.
Yeah.
Yes, there's 20 spacecraft flying around the solar system right now. Did you ever see that map on Twitter?
About.
That we know? That's not even including the secret space program.
Yeah. Or the aliens that are coming here to see you when you're meditating.
Yeah. But that was fascinating, eh? I could see you getting excited. I think that's the most questions you've ever asked.
Oh, fuck off.
No, aren't you excited about the icy moons and all that?
I carry the show half the time.
You got your telescope and you're interested in all this stuff?
My telescope's in the dump pile.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I need a new one. Next time I'm going to invest in is going to be Wi-Fi, so that I can give it a hotspot off my phone and just say, show me fucking Saturn.
Is that what it does? No way. Is that what they do now?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think like $1,500 will get you into those.
You missed the part. You had to step out there. You missed the part we were talking about. There's a whole whack of these planets. Like, they're not really planets. They're like Pluto, but they're a little bit smaller, and we're going to be out there checking those out soon. So that's exciting. Yeah. So what's going on over there, buddy?
Reading James's fucking bullshit. Anyway, big thanks to Emily for coming on the show. Come back anytime. What do we got? The upgrade may or may not still be a thing.
Yeah, let's just not really talk about this and make this non-time sensitive outro.
Okay. Yeah, check out Grimerica.ca/support. Help us stay ad, sponsor, affiliate, and bullshit free, except for Grounds bullshit. But you guys like that. So yeah, check out that, Grimerica.ca/support. There's a bunch of different options. Right now, Ponce is the subscription to beat.
Nice.
Yeah, $27.77. He had to do 2 subscriptions.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it too.
Ponce is the man.
Ponce is a man. Helps out your synchro scores too. Spam Grab, send your stories. Trip reports, lucid dreams, synchros.
Yeah.
I haven't got to rate any synchros in a while, so send some of that shit over. That's about it. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next week. Tell your friends about the show.
edition of Grimerican Goodies by the